I really liked that film.
Yeah, it was great. I did not expect the protagonist. The books were better.
I've always wondered how films adapt with source material into a script, with the original text ranging from plays to novels to comic books. How are things like character voice and cadence considered? In fact, how is sound design in a script considered at all? Film is an audiovisual media, meaning that its plot and argument are transmitted through two simultaneous and complementary channels: the visual and the aural. The visual channel accounts for mise en scène, character movement, and action. The aural accounts for soundtrack and sound design. Describing the visual components may come natural to scriptwriting, as in form, it's very similar to novel writing. But that begs the question, how is audio denoted? The aural channel isn't dictated through accompanying music sheets or soundboards or anything. In a script, soundtrack and sound design can only be described and left for the reader to imagine. Seeing as it is one of only two channels of information, to what extent is it investigated? Let's look at an example. In the words of his idol, Gusteau, Remy demonstrates to the audience how good food is like music you can taste and color you can smell. This scene shows Remy experimenting with the opposing flavors of a sweet strawberry and a sharp cheese. He experiences a flavor fusion, represented by the dancing colors and through the use of soundtrack.
Oh, Gusteau was right. Oh, yeah. Oh, amazing. Each flavor was totally unique. But combine one flavor with another, and something new was created.
Let's look at the script. It definitely describes mise en scène, action, and even visual effects. The visual channel is well accounted for in the script. Audio flourishes are also well accounted for. Remy investigates how food is like music. The use of visual and aural cues exemplify cinema's ability to provide an audio-visual narrative. Jan-Louis Kruger describes three modes of sound design. Audio-visual translation aims to provide access to audio-visual text to viewers that do not have access to its visual codes. Audio description provides descriptive narration for the viewer, such as when a character describes his surroundings. For sound design, this would be a drop of water making the sound of a water drop. Water is just water. Finally, audio narration provides commentary through its own independent, integrated narrative. For example, when a character narration is different from the events on screen. For sound design, this would be the effect of the water drop. Water drips on a farmer's crops after her 6-month drought. He is thankful. Tears stream down the cheek of a daughter. After seeing her father return from war, she is joyful. Audio narration describes the use of emotive or insightful sound design. The sad music I'm using right now is an example of this. Back to Ratatouille, the film's visual codes clearly indicate the two differing flavors becoming one.
And something new was created.
Even if we listen to just the audio, we still get a sense of the flavor fusion Remy experiences, well represented by the differing styles of music combining into one. As it is integral to the scene, the script caters to both visual and aural channels. In the film, this is reflected through the use of soundtrack via the narrative mode.
See? Not really. Creamy, salty, sweet, and oaky nuttiness. You detect that?
If the scriptwriter intends it, motivated sound design will definitely be included in the script.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, I got to tell you about the fabulous, most groovy bell bottoms. Bell bottom.
The recent Baby Driver and Whiplash are contemporary examples of acute sound design. As it is integral to the scene, the script caters to both visual and aural channels. Interestingly enough, when considering how big the impact of something like Foley has on a film, we do not see its inclusion
We create the sound effects for things that characters do, and we usually do them inside the studio.
It seems as if sound design is assumed, rather than catered into a script. Rephrased, sound design is only primarily considered during production, but that doesn't mean it cannot be inferred from a script. The main antagonist in the Coen brothers' No Country for Old Men is Sugar, played by Javier Bardem. His imposing presence on screen completely takes over any scene he's in.
Need to know what I stand to win.
Everything.
How's that?
You stand to win everything, call it.
All right. Heads then.
Well done. Don't put it in your pocket, sir.
In conjunction with the natural progression of their conversation, soundtrack was used to signify that the intense moment was over. We can all breathe now. In the original script, there is no denotation catered to the soundtrack, but in the film, its slow creep into the scene changes the atmosphere completely. Soundtrack wasn't denoted in the script, but that's because it wasn't the focus of the scene. Instead, this scene focused on the terrifying and quirky nature of Sugar's character, exemplified through his interaction with the proprietor. So far, according to the examples we have looked at, scripts only cater to sound design when it is the focus of the scene, which is to be expected. In fact, movement is also portrayed in the script, but typically, things like shot size and shot duration aren't. We have also learned that motivated moments of sound design typically fall under the narrative mode. Otherwise, scripts refer to sound design through the descriptive mode. Water is just water.
The source material may have been good, but that doesn't mean the film doesn't work.
In fact, I think that the film brought to life the soundtrack of the mystic world that I couldn't hear.
But the source material.
Just one last thing I want to investigate. I mentioned earlier that character cadence doesn't come across from script to scene. In some cases, it may make it difficult for an actor to properly portray a moment, but in others, it really allows for some creative exploration. I'm talking about robots, and talking dogs, and talking furniture. The open-endedness of scripts allows its reader to examine the character for what it is. Let's look at two final examples. Both Her and Wall-E focus on the interaction between non-human protagonists and human characters. In the latter, Wall-E and Ava are just as emotive as anyone else. Wall-E is particularly interesting because Ava has lines full of dialogue, but Wall-E can only say Wall-E, or Eva, or Scream. In the script, he reads the same way as any other character, but his adorable nature and innocent inflections are noted. Similar can be said for Samantha from Her. Being the focal AI companion, she reads like any other character in the rest of the film. But the fact that she is an AI really allowed director Spike Jonze some lines for experimentation. Portrayed by Scarlett Johansson, Samantha's tone, cadence, and speech patterns are incredibly human.
Hello, I'm here.
Oh. Hi.
Arguably the most human in all of the film. Listen to how her voice crackles when she sings.
I'm lying on the moon.
Again, this vocal cadence is not denoted in the script, but unlike Wall-E, she doesn't have a body to express her emotions. Instead, she sorely expresses delight, disgust, or disappointment through tone.
It's a quiet and starry place.
This brings me to my conclusion. Through this little investigation, peeking into moments across several films, we have found that sound design, when necessary, is definitely addressed in the script. If it isn't, the scene's contextual tonality will motivate any inclusion of soundtrack or sound design. Vocal tone and cadence are also not denoted in a script, but that leaves the director room to impose their own system and codes. To answer my earlier question of how sound design is considered in the script, we have learned that scripts only address what is absolutely necessary, and leaves the rest up to our